Guys, what is up? It is Friday, April the 3rd, and by God's grace, you have almost made it through another week right from home. And we are still committed to helping you follow Jesus Christ right from home. I'm a sinner saved by grace, passionate about helping others follow Jesus Christ. And as the Lord wills, you guessed it, let's get to it. Yesterday, we saw how the forces of nature, like earthquakes, can cause the world shaking, but also our own lives shaking. But as we saw that the people of God need not fear because we see and we trust who God is. And yesterday we saw that God is our refuge. And today we see something similar, but it just keeps getting better and better the more and more we see who God is. Yesterday we saw how the forces of nature cause instability and shaking, and today we see how the forces of nature can cause shaking and instability. In Psalms 46, verse 6, it says, "The nations rage, they rise, and the kingdoms totter, they fall." Sometimes this can cause political and economic shaking, political and economic instability. But as it says in verse 2, we will not fear. And why? The same reason as yesterday, we see and we trust in who God is. And here in verse 7, we see who our God is. And this is incredible. It says, the Lord of hosts. This is Yahweh, Sabaoth. This is the divine warrior. This is the God of angel armies. And we see that this God, his presence with us. It says the Lord of hosts is with us. This God is with us. Not just that, it says the God of Jacob, Elohim. We talked about him yesterday, the great creator and sustainer of all of life. The God of Jacob is our fortress. And that word fortress is the same meaning as we saw in verse 1 from yesterday, refuge. And this has the idea that God, he is our protector. So God is with us, his presence, but he is also protecting us. This is who your God is. And so after we see a passage like this, no matter all of the shaking and instability that we see around because of the nations around us, we can fully put our hope and our trust in this God. Your God, he is Yahweh Sabaoth, and he is with you. Your God, Elohim, is your fortress and protecting you. Trust in your God, this God. Yesterday, we asked the question, what kept the man as just a follower of Jesus and not a fan of Jesus? And the answer is his treasure. The Bible tells us that this man had great possessions, which there's nothing wrong with having great possessions. But for this man, it was his greatest treasure. And it was this that kept him from becoming a true follower of Jesus Christ. Let me pause and say this. Duty to God is very important. Obedience to his commands is crucial. After all, the rich young man said, I followed all of the external commandments of the law. But Jesus said one thing is missing. And what was that? And that is delight. And let me explain what that is. When I say delight, I mean that Jesus is your greatest and most precious treasure. And so here's a question we have to ask. Is Jesus your treasure? Or a better question, is Jesus your greatest treasure? This question helps to determine if we're just a fan of Jesus Christ, or if we are indeed a true follower, or if we are somewhere in between. And the times like we are in right now, they often help to reveal what is our greatest treasure in life. So check your life out. Don't go away like this rich young man who had great possessions, but yet went away full of sorrow. So the question you must ask is this: is he worth it? Today's reading is from Mark chapter 10, verses 32 through 45. Today's question is, for the third time, what did the disciples fail to grasp? And the other question is, the very thing that caused the disciples to miss what Jesus was trying to show them, is that in fact the very thing that is causing you to miss what Jesus is trying to show? Thank you to all of you who commented with Thanksgivings about the videos. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Tony, Mary Beth. Thank you, Lynn, Diana, Mary, Jan, Joan, and John. That's a lot of J's. thank you. Thank you for your comments. It's a joy to do. YouTube is a steep learning curve, but I love it, and I hope this is a great resource for you and your household. Robert gave a great suggestion, and he said, why don't you end the video with a slide of the daily reading and the daily question so you can pause it and you have all the information there at the same time. That's a wonderful suggestion. Thank you, Robert. I will take you up on that. Today we are praying for all of you, children, teens, parents, grandparents, that God would help you to treasure Jesus as your greatest treasure. That before you reach for your phone and scroll and refresh and check for likes and comments and subscriptions, that you would treasure Jesus as your greatest treasure. Before you start streaming a show, before you start playing your video games, and yes, for some of you, before you start your work, that you would treasure Jesus Christ. We are praying that you would treasure the very one who is worth it and who is worthy of all the affection and the greatest affection of your heart. What a gift today is, again, to follow Jesus, even while at home. And Lord willing, we'll see you tomorrow.